I love working with wood. I love working with copper and brass and other types of metal. I love working with plastic, acrylic, laser cut acrylic particularly. I love working with electronics and things like the wonderful Arduino. What I absolutely hate, I have discovered, is hair. I cannot bear it. Thankfully, I have very little left of my own, and what I do have I really don't care about because I can't see it. But I've reached the stage now, unfortunately, with Victoria, the automaton's head, that I can't avoid the issue anymore. I have got to sort out the hair. Before further ado, remember that if you're creative and would like to build your very own working steampunk kitchen timer, there's also the heraldic clarion door horn and mechanised gauge kits and greetings cards and decorative gauges and a range of steampunk weather machines that I make to order. So it's well worth a look, and both links are in the description. If you remember back, so I think the first video on designing Victoria, I rather stupidly came up with the idea of defining the head size with a wig, and I bought, having spent quite a few hours looking up on eBay researching hair, I found a fairly reasonably priced, e.g. I don't know, £8 for an old woman's hairstyle type wig with a bun and grey hair. Thought, well, that's a good start, and all the reviews for this said it was awful because it was far too small. So I thought, well, it'll do, but obviously, I mean, it weighs a ton and it was useless, and I can't colour it because obviously it's synthetic. The thought of having a wig made of real human hair and fiddling with it, I don't know, strange. So, having put it off since then, I thought I've got to now, because she's ready for a full head of hair. And I came up, look, we're doing some research, found that Argos actually sells this, and it was a Snow White fancy dress thing for children, so theoretically with a smaller head, not an adult size head. So I dutifully ordered one of those, and that arrived, and you know, engineering. I can set the tolerances of this to less than 0.1 of a millimetre, 0.01 of a millimetre. Or electronics, it's just predictable and nice. Hair? What the hell am I meant to do with this? I've sort of worked out where the top is. Thankfully there's a red bow, that gave me a clue. But it's really big. If I use Clementine, Victoria and Florence's third sister, half sister, I don't know what the opposite, half sister would be. I don't know. Anyway, I'll put that on there. This has got some sort of elasticated thing. The polystyrene is very slippery, so I'll just get on with it. Obviously it's huge, it's far too big. I measured Victoria's circumference, head circumference, which is basically how you find out the dimensions of the wig, and it came to about to be 15 inches, which I think is 380 millimetres. This I haven't measured, I will do so now. Well, I've just measured her, and it's 21 inches around the circumference, which is 530 millimetres, so quite a lot bigger. Now, someone suggested after the first video that it is possible to edit, I think that's the word I'm going to stick with, edit wigs, because you can theoretically, there's the underparts, whatever it's called, and all these sections of hair that are stitched onto it, and apparently you can work out the circumference and cut bits out and trim bits down, and I don't know, and it frightens me. Ooh. So I've come up with another excuse to put it all off. Obviously Victoria is missing part of her head, rather an important part, the cranium part. So what I'm going to be able to do is to get that printing out and put it off even longer because there's no way that I could work out how to get the wig to fit without having a proper head shape. Fabulous. Then my wife mentioned very gently and kindly that the power shower, which hasn't been working properly for about 10 years, if I had a minute, perhaps I might be able to look at that. But now this is perfect, so I'm going to go and have a look at the power shower. Out of the workshop and into the shower. This is our Aquastream Aqualisa power shower. Had it for about 20 years. And it is one of the worst badly made pieces of home equipment I've ever had the misfortune to meet. If you even the sign, if you look at that, I know it's a bit dark in here, but the fan comes on and make a lot of noise. I'm trying to keep the echo down. You can see they've put the Aqualisa sign upside down. So whichever operative was putting them on, they obviously couldn't give a damn or pretty angry with the company. It's gone wrong so many times. Open it up and shear inside. Forgive the filth, but as I say, it's 20 years old. So you have a motor, a ceramic seal, and the impeller inside here that basically takes the hot and cold water that come in inside. The hot and cold go into this thermostatic control with the knob on the front, so you can adjust the temperature you want. Then the mixed water goes up through the pump and is pumped by the motor, the impeller in there, through the pipe to the shower head. After we'd had it for about 5 years, it started whining and whistling and screeching, getting louder and louder and louder. I thought, surely this isn't right. I don't remember it used to make that noise. So I took it all to pieces, got it all apart, and realised they'd realised first of all that the bearing inside at the front of the motor had gone rusty because water had got in. There's always going to be a bit of water around with this sort of thing. So managed to get a replacement bearing, just a standard one, put that in, but I've got a waterproof one, well at least one with rubber seals on. Got it all back together and it worked again. And then a few years later it stopped working, and I opened it all up and found that the bearing had completely sealed, because I realised they designed this so that any water leaking past the ceramic seal, which you're going to get a little bit, is going to pool up here and is actually not going to be able to escape. So the bearing is just going to remain fully immersed in water. It's absolutely disgusting. In fact, it's just down here, that's right. So in the end, as I say, apologies for the darkness and stuff, but I cut an extra low hole here. They'd cut one up to about that level. I cut one low enough so that any water going past the seal would just run out the front. I mean, they've got to have done that deliberately. It's absolutely appalling. Yes, and then about 5 years ago, it stopped working, and I realised that this is connected to a transformer, a 12 volts and 24 volt transformer, which has got a 25% duty cycle. So you're allowed to have a 15-minute shower, then you've got to let it cool down for 45 minutes before you can reuse it theoretically. And because the switch system, which I'm going to repair today, is so badly made and so badly designed, it all seized up. This is the switch system. This sits around here, and it's got a cam on the back of the control knob that pushes two little levers, and it had two nasty little micro switches underneath. So you can see there's cams, yeah. So as you turn it, first of all switches 12 volts to the motor, and then 24 volts if you want really powerful showers. But that's seized up. I mean, it's situated right at the bottom, where any drips, any leaks, everything's going to end up. Micro switches right at the bottom, so they seized up, and they'd used these appalling, awful little ones. I haven't got anything good to say about this, but I've worked on it so many times. Two nasty little cheap micro switches sitting right at the bottom. They're meant to be waterproof to IP65 or something, and they'd sealed the back of them, and then there are little holes left in the front, which is part of manufacture, or possibly kindly put there by Aqualisa so that water could get in and ruin them. So that's ridiculous. I'm sure they're also rated well below the current for this system, so they're both useless. In the end I got a new transformer. Like I said, the old one had stopped working, had burnt out because the switches kept failing, not switching off, and we had some guests around. One of them had a shower and didn't realise that even though he'd switched the shower off, the motor was still running, and that just burnt the transformer out. So I managed to get a new one of them on eBay, well, a new second-hand unused one, and then realised that the switches were absolutely knackered. So today I took the switch system off and I've just connected up the wire, just sort of removed it 12 volts straight to the motor. Now if I switch the light on, which switches the transformer on, brilliant, so the motor still works. And that's, I now know the transformer's working, well, not the switch, but there's also around here, there's a, because AC comes in, there's a bridge rectifier there to turn the AC after the switch into DC, whichever 12 or 20 volts been selected, into DC, and then that runs the motor. So it goes one way round as it's a DC motor. And I've gone to RS and I've found the equivalent, but this time a 10 amp rated one. I think it's roughly the same size, and it's IP65, so the wires are all sort of sealed into it, and it's properly sealed this time. So hopefully that'll arrive tomorrow, and then I can see if I can fit the new switches. Well, I'm not going to see if I can. I'm going to somehow work out how to fit the new switches into that sort of harness cradle type thing. And during the meanwhile, I'm going to try and clean some of this keck off. Put some silicone grease or something on it. So hopefully I'll have a new lease of life. And I can't believe the spares. Getting a new one of these, just that bit with the two switches, and I think the bridge rectifier, 49 quid. Obviously they go wrong, but you can still get them for old models. 49 quid. Whereas two new micro switches, I think they were about a tenner for the two good quality ones. And even buying a new one of these, 350 quid for this. Seems to be the going rate for power showers. It's such a rip-off when you consider what you're getting. It's appalling. You think about a car windscreen wiper, in effect, something probably about that size in a windscreen wiper motor, you know, and that's probably about a tenner. If a new one of these costs 150 quid just for the pump and the motor, it is such a rip-off. Anywho, mustn't grumble. Back in the shower a couple of days later, and the micro switches arrived from RS. There's the on and off and the power one. And they're actuated by a little cam thing at the front. All the wires hanging out at the moment. I'm just going to wire it up and then we'll give it a go. Took quite a lot of fiddling about, but I've now got it so that the cams on the back of this work in order. So we just put that on. That's in the off position, neither micro switch. Turn it around to there, put that in. That's one micro switch. Turn it around more, and there's both micro switches. Luckily, because these, you know, replacement parts from RS standard ones, I use little nuts and bolts to hold them in brass ones because there's already water dripping down this. I mean, why not put the switch up here where it's going to be dry? It's ridiculous. So I'll try and work out where this wheel needs to be positioned, because obviously it opens the valve to let the water through the system and then switches the thing on. So I've got to work that out. I thought I'd just check the fan as well, the extractor fan, and I found I think it's a house martin's nest behind it. Luckily not from this year, but I remember last year there was one nesting in it, and that probably doesn't help with airflow. This is a very clever fan as well. It's got shutters on it, and this device, if I switch it on, you'll see what it does. It's 12 volts because it's in the shower. So the fan starts up, and then this device has a heater in it and some sort of bimetallic or chemical system, and as it heats up it slowly extends, not immediately, over probably about 30 seconds, and then that pushes shutters open. I'll switch it off for now because I'll put the shutters back on. Here are the shutters, and there's a lever on the back that just springs them open. Very clever. And that's what the little electromechanical heating pushing thing pushes against. Lovely. And there you have it. You turn it on like that and it lets the water out. Then the pump kicks in at slow speed, 12 volts. And I've got 24 volts. Brilliant. Power shower again. Lovely. Here's another great example of rotten product design. This whole door, the shower door, pivots obviously around the top, and second pivot point is at the bottom. And rather than having some really sturdy metal, the top's easy to see, you can see there's a 10mm metal pin that just goes into some nylon, injection molded nylon thing. Now that's okay at the top, and also the nylon thing is fixed to the aluminium extruded frame with a self-tapping screw that goes up inside, which means that it's completely captive. Once the door's in place and the whole thing is assembled, it's captive. You cannot get it out at all. And what happens if you imagine this is the other way up? Aha, the other way up. All the weight of the door is pushing down. It's a big door and the glass is tough and hardened and sort of 4 or 5 or 6mm thick, so it weighs a ton. All that weight is bearing down onto one little pivot point. It's absolutely ridiculous. So what happened over 20 years of use is that the pivot wore right down, well, sufficiently so that as you shut the door, the back of it would always bang on there. Really annoying. So it would, you'd pull it and it would go clonk, and then you'd have to give it a big thick slam shut. Horrible. And even better than fixing the power shower is I managed to fix this. All I did in the end, after numerous visits upstairs and back downstairs, I thought, why not do a drawing? Take a ruler upstairs and actually measure it. So I did. What I required was something along the lines of that. I thought, what can I make that of? And very luckily, looking through my drawers of keck, I found this old TV wall mounting bracket, really over-engineered. Unlike the shower and the Robertson radio lid and the shower door, this is absolutely incredible. It is solid. Massive bit of extruded aluminium for the base, which has then been machined down beautifully. Huge, great bolt and everything. And when I measured it, I realised, luckily, because I don't really have that much metal. I have some brass which I use for some of the machines, but not really anything else. So I was very lucky to find this, especially as it's aluminium. So it'll reduce friction with the aluminium door rests on it, and also it means it's waterproof. So I sawed this bit off, as you can see, and then a warning to people who like working with metal and have the right equipment. What I'm about to show you is not the right equipment, but I have to say it did work. Here's a normal drill bit, high-speed steel drill bit for drilling wood, plastic, metal, hills in, the aforesaid, but it can only drill up and down. It drills downwards, drills the hole like that. For this job, shaping the aluminium, I needed one of these, which is a slot drill. This, I think it's high-speed steel again, but this can go plunge down because it's got sharp edges at the bottom. But also the flutes have got cutting edges on, so you can actually move side to side, backwards and forwards, up and down. That's very useful. But in order to do that, you need something along the lines of this. Now again, I had this, I bought this when I set up a little design consultancy years ago when I left college. This, because I couldn't afford at the time a milling machine, which in effect is what you need, so I got this, which is a vice that moves backwards and forwards and left and right. And this is the pillar drill. There's the pillar drill. What you need to do though, first of all, because I don't want the drill going up and down, as it normally does in a pillar drill, I'm going to tighten these two. This is the depth adjuster, but if you turn it right down, it can't move anywhere. As I say, this is really not the right way to do this, but I haven't got room for a milling machine, and I sort of just currently work without requiring one, so this will have to suffice. Tighten the bed of the machine up and we'll give it a go. Right. Not too shabby, and I've just skimmed the surface of this, but obviously this bit here, on focus, this bit is narrower than this bit, so I had to clamp this carefully horizontal and then just machine a little fraction right off across there, having machined that off and machine this off. The bottom of the door frame just rests on there, so there's a bit of friction, but it's aluminium on aluminium, and it is a joy. Want a shower? Just open the door. Oh, look at that. Probably about 15 years I've had to slam this shower door. It's just fabulous. I'm so pleased. Brilliant. Right. 13 hours and 3 minutes later, Victoria's cranium is printed. I'm so pleased to find, having checked the sensors, the thermistors on this, that if it did go wrong it would switch off and cool itself down. So pleased I could leave this on overnight. And there you have it. Very pleased with that. It's printed the inside perfectly, and see whether it fits on top of Victoria's head. Sometime later, and I've managed to create this hideous creation. What I've done, I found it far easier to work from the inside. I've just used tons of little knotted bits of cotton to gradually gather up all the separate things, whatever you call them, hairy bits, and it doesn't look like it, but it sort of now fits on her head. Her eyes popped out as well, never mind. Yeah, so I think I'm going to fix that on with double-sided tape to stretch it, and then I need to consult the boss about how to get the hair going where I want it to go, because I have no idea. Right, we've reached an impasse. I believe I need some more of these little metal clips, because apparently the Victorians had them, and also it allows all the hair to be gathered and controlled far more precisely without the use of glue. So, thanks very much for watching. Please do remember to visit the shop, and I look forward to hopefully presenting you with a far more attractive and well organised, in the shoot department, Victoria next time. Thanks very much.